Because tonight is StoryOly! Yeah. And tonight marks the first Story Slam of Season 4. And the first StoryOly event with our new later starting time of 7 p.m. Yes. I hear some applause. Some people like that. Great. So, welcome. Tonight is going to be a storytelling slam. And what that means is people in the audience will tell stories from their life, true stories, stories in which they are the only expert. And then they will be judged. Because it's a contest. And the person that wins tonight qualifies to be part of the Grand Slam, which will take place in September 2019. Oh, God, did you ever think you'd be alive for 2019? So weird. So, tonight's theme is First Impressions. First impressions, you know, that thing that happens that makes it so you never, ever call that person again. You know, that thing that happens that says, hey, can we go out again? Those first impressions. Every month, we donate half the door's proceeds to a local organization that's doing good work in our community. And tonight, the proceeds from the door will benefit the Crisis Clinic. They're handing out candy with all the information on there. So I think there are still some left at the door if you want to pick up $1 million. I'm just going to read this real quickly from their brochure, their mission. We strive to empower people, especially those in crisis, through telephone intervention and information and referral every hour of the year. We strengthen the community by training crisis clinic volunteers and educating community groups in crisis intervention skills. An important organization that's in our community that serves Thurston and Mason counties. So I encourage you to pick up one of the brochures, and if you'd like to get involved, there's information in here to tell you how to do that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to put it out there. Over the years, we've given thousands of dollars away to local organizations, and if you know of an organization in town doing good work, and you think they would benefit from what we can give them through a StoryOly event, please do get in touch with StoryOly and let us know about that organization. Couple announcements, because it's the beginning of the season. Next month, the theme is Making Ends Meet. Just in time for the holidays. Also, if you don't get enough storytelling here, you can always see the Heart Sparkle Players perform at Traditions Cafe once a month. They do a form of improv theater called playback, where people in the audience tell a story from their life, and then the actors on stage recreate it in an artful fashion. Pretty cool. Happens the second Friday of every month at Traditions. There's info on the counter. And if that's not enough storytelling for you, let me tell you something else that happens every year. It's called Telebration. Telebration brought to you by Southtown Story Guild. This year it's on November 23rd. It's always on the same day of November, isn't it, Maggie? Day after Thanksgiving, right? It's the perfect day. And it's also at Traditions Cafe at 7 p.m. this Friday. So $10 suggested donation. There's also handbills at the door if you want more information about that. All right. We've got a handful of information. Oh, yes, this one. One more announcement, then we'll get started. I'm teaching storytelling workshops. I've taught a number of them in the past, and they've gone really well. I've got 3 dates set aside for some storytelling workshops, December 15th, February 16th, and May 18th. If you're interested in taking or participating in a storytelling workshop, grab one of these little handbills. There's some information on there. And if you want to be in the workshop, just call me or send me an email, and we'll have you registered for the workshop. Who here has taken the workshop before? Yeah, okay. Would you say good? Good, okay, cool. There's your reference right there. Penny said good. Oh, biggest brag on the workshops. One year a woman took the workshop. That year she won the Grand Slam. Yeah, that's cool, huh? All right, the chocolate's melting in my hand. All right, want to hear some stories? Yeah. Me too. There's also the Curious Query tonight. If you don't want to get on stage but you'd still like to participate, you can tell your story anonymously on a slip of paper by answering tonight's Curious Query, which is, what trait did you possess in your youth? What trait did you possess that was observed in your youth that's still true about you today? I see lots of answers, so I'll read those throughout tonight's program. So now I need some judges. Who here knows that they will be here for the entire event? Think about that. The event should last about 1 hour and 45 minutes. And who here thinks that they would make a good storytelling judge? And who here is not having their best friend telling tonight? If you meet all those criteria, please raise your hand. I'd like you to be tonight's StoryOly judge. All right, I see you there with the beard. I see you there by the wall. And I see a person at the bar with their arm up. Hi. I don't know her. All right, listen up, judges. You're going to rate each storytelling from 1 to 10. 1 being, you could have just stayed home and slept. 5 being a good story. Something that had a beginning, middle, and end. 5 being that. 7 being, wow, you really wanted to know what was going to happen next. It was a great story. And 10 being that kind of story that reshapes how you see the world, the kind of story where you want to repeat it to your friends after tonight. A kick-ass storytelling is a 10. So think about that range, all right? Sometimes we're tempted to give everyone a 10 because everybody's great. But in this situation, if you do that early on, you'll be like, wow, God, we don't have a 20 card. Okay. Judges, you're not judging the storytellers on their life choices, but merely on whether there was some good storytelling, a beginning, middle, and end. Was it compelling? Did you want to know what was going to happen next? It could be about something really disgusting, but you really wanted to know, did they get the rodent out of the wall? I don't know. I don't know what the story's about. For storytellers, we're going to allow 8 minutes or less for you to tell your story up here. At 6 minutes, I'm going to ring a little bell that sounds like this. One more time. Yes. And that will let you know that 6 minutes has elapsed, and you've got about 2 minutes to wrap it up. I won't ring a second bell because that's just rude. You can have notes like I do. This is a storytelling that you'll tell from your memory, your mind. We ask that there be no rants, no hate speech, and no vision quests. The story should take place in the real world. If you have an announcement you'd like to make, rather than use your valuable mic time, you can hand me a slip and I will happily announce whatever it is you want the public to know about. This is a safe place to tell stories. We are an encouraging and generous audience, aren't we? So with that in mind, if you're on the fence about whether or not you should tell a story, the answer is yes. We got your back. All right. Without further ado, let's see who will be tonight's first teller. This slip of paper says, Marcy.
My older brother Dave has worked for the Hilton Hotel for his whole life. So every time I see him and I'm about to go traveling, he asks me where I'm staying. Not where I'm going, not what I'm gonna see, not what I'm gonna do while I'm there, but where am I putting my head on a pillow? That seems so strange to me, because really, like, I just need a bed that's, you know, bug-free, maybe sort of quiet, maybe dark, but I just like close my eyes, I wake up, I'm ready to do stuff. I don't want to hang out in the hotel. So I always thought that was really strange. So when I was younger, my job sent me to Washington, D.C. for work. I was going to teach a class out there. And I took advantage of the flight to book a few extra days while I was out there. On my own dime, I spent the weekend ahead of time seeing the sights, tooling around D.C. It was fantastic. But I'm too cheap to stay in a real hotel, so I stayed in the youth hostel. Yes. Person of my own heart. So I don't know if you've seen the youth hostel in DC, but it's kind of what you'd expect. It's super industrial. It's giant. It's got those swipey cards to get in the outside door, because who knows what kind of riffraff might come in there. And you have to swipe your card to get onto your floor, and you have to swipe your card to get into the room. And all of this stuff is like very intimidating, but especially the one to get to your room, because in order to make the swipey card work, it has this really heavy industrial swipey thing that makes the door really heavy. So I remember trying to go into the room. I had to like swipe the card and then like hold the door with my shoulder while I wheeled my bag in. And that was kind of challenging. And I met my roommates, but we really didn't talk much at all. They were doing their own thing, I was doing mine. But I remember distinctly that there was one roommate who was in a wheelchair. And it was very challenging for her to get inside the room, because holding that door open and wheeling in was like basically impossible. So whenever she came into the room, she'd oftentimes knock and we'd help her out as she came in. So I had a fantastic weekend. It's my last night there. I go to bed early because I have to get up really early to get off to my job, the reason I was actually here. And in the middle of the night, I'm awoken by a knocking on the door. And I remember my first thought was, maybe if I go back to sleep, the sound will go away. And so I snuggled back, but the knocking happened again. And this time I thought, maybe my roommates will take care of it. But no, the knock a third time happened, and I finally dragged myself sleepily out of bed, and it must have been the middle of the night because I was super dead to the world. And I go to the door, and I'm just about to open it, and I thought, wait a minute. What if there's a serial killer on the other side of that door? It could be anybody. I don't know what's happening. And there was no peephole in the door. There was no way to find out who was on the other side of that door. But then I thought, oh, of course, it's got to be the woman in the wheelchair. I should help her out. So I opened the door, and on the other side of the door is a man, an Asian man, completely naked. Now, I'm really tired when you wake me up in the middle of the night. And so I remember being completely stunned, but my brain hadn't quite caught up. So my brain was kind of like, something's not right here, but I can't quite put the words to it. And before I could respond, the guy brushes past me and gets into the bed that's closest to the door, which is my bed. And then I sort of wake up a little bit more and thought, wait a minute, that's definitely not right. And so I finally put some words to this emotion, and I said, you're in the wrong room. He didn't respond. And I remember saying next with my best Californian accent, dude, you're in the wrong room. And he sort of blearily opens an eye and mumbles something and then rolls out of the bed and goes back in the hallway, and I shut the door really quick. But then I had to think, a naked guy's been in my bed. But what are you gonna do? It's the middle of the night and I'm so tired. So I get into bed and I go back to sleep. And then I woke up in the morning and my alarm goes off and I get up and I think, did that really happen? I mean, that doesn't seem like a dream. I'm pretty sure it happened. And I was really looking forward to talking with my roommates about did you see that? Did that really happen? What happened? Was that guy drunk or sleepwalking? I don't know. But my roommates were super asleep. And being a good roommate, I quietly packed up my stuff and went downstairs to check out, thinking, maybe I'll never know. and I'm standing in line to check out, and I realize there's an Asian guy, like 2 ahead of me. And I remember thinking, should I ask him? Wait, is there some way that I can ask him about this that's sly enough that if it wasn't him, he won't know what I'm talking about? Think. Excuse me, were you naked in my bed last night? No, that's not gonna work. And I tried really hard to come up with some sort of question, but I'm sorry to say I wasn't that fast. And so he leaves, and I still don't know if that was him. But I saw my brother later. And of course he asks me, where did you stay while you were in DC? And I said, the youth hostel, and I told him this whole story. And he looks super upset. I mean, I'm his baby sister, and he's like very protective. He's like, oh my gosh, that's awful. That's why you need to stay in hotels. And I said, no, that's why I keep staying in youth hostels. Thank you.
What trait do you still possess that was first observed in your childhood? Determination. Goal in mind is a goal achieved, no matter how long it takes. Picture that in a 5-year-old. Playing with their toys, right? What trait do you still possess? I still stick out my tongue when I think hard, or when I poop. Yeah. Ready for another story? This slip of paper says Renee Morales. Renee? Coming from the back of the room. Welcome. Welcome. We might have to do a second. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Lift it up a little bit.
Okay.
Better.
All right.
Better. All right.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So I started out the year very optimistic in terms of where I was going to go, what I was going to do, what I was going to be. Just so many things in my mind that I thought, man, I've got this. It's going to be a great year. So my birthday's in February. Right, again, beginning of the year, things are good, and I'm turning 50. 50. So I'm thinking, you know, I survived this. I was a horrible kid. I should have died from all the acts of craziness that I did, but yet I still managed to make it to 50. And again, I've got this great year. Things are wonderful. Well, the day before my 50th birthday party, I started to feel this shocking feeling right here. It was the weirdest kind of thing. I had no idea what it was. I just knew that for whatever reason, if I touched my head right around here, I'd feel this electric shock. And it didn't seem to go away, just out of whatever, craziness, just shock. Well, that shock progressed. And then as the day went on, it would just happen randomly. And I would sit around and talk to my friends, and then I'd be like this. And they were asking me if I was okay, what was going on, and I didn't know what to say because I kept thinking, it's nothing. It was probably just nothing. Didn't think anything of it. 2 weeks after that party, I was flying back from Spokane from business, and I realized that these shocks were getting worse, and I went to the ER. I had no idea what was going on, and I was very scared and thought, I need to pull over and find the closest hospital because I'm driving, and what if one of these shocks causes me to get into an accident or hurt somebody or something? I go to the ER, and I'm waiting patiently, and of course I call my wife, and I'm telling her what's going on, who of course instantly goes to WebMD to quickly diagnose me. She's great at that, and quite honestly, she should be a doctor because she nailed it. I had trigeminal neuralgia. It's a very painful disorder that is nicknamed the suicide disease because over time, the pain becomes so severe that people often kill themselves. I didn't know what to do. And the only way to figure out for sure if I had it was to have an MRI, which they quickly scheduled me for, and I had. The MRI came back and said that the trigeminal nerve was in contact with an artery, which confirmed the diagnosis. My hope for the future, everything that I thought, my first impressions of the year came crashing down because now I had no idea what was going to happen to me. The shocks became worse. The pain became unbearable sometimes. I would lock myself in my room, isolating myself because I couldn't look at my wife. I couldn't look at my family. I couldn't smile. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't sing. I couldn't do the things that I love doing, like telling stories or even talking to my friends. I struggled to be who I was because I could no longer be myself. I sunk in depression. I didn't know what to do. My wife began to seriously contemplate quitting her job because she thought that she may have to care for me because I would no longer be able to work. I did share this with my coworkers. I did tell them what was going on. I told them that I was going to try and manage and I would try and make it. And I'd try and humor them and said, look, if for some crazy reason I say something inappropriately, just touch me here and I'll stop. This went on for months and I didn't know what to do. My daughter read that CBD would be helpful and began to put CBD in my brownies. And let me tell you, I'd never had that before, even without CBD. And it tasted horrible, and I thought maybe it would help, but it didn't. And we had scheduled a trip to go to Europe, and I looked at my wife and I said, we can't go. I don't want to spend money to go someplace when I'm just going to be miserable. So I know that losing Europe was a big deal. And I said, well, the next best thing is to go to Bend, Oregon, obviously. So we decided to go to Bend. So while we were in Bend, we went to some place that for some, I can't even describe the store. I wish I could remember it because quite honestly, it changed my life. It's a very artsy little place, and in the corner was this little display of CBD. So I went to go ask the person about the CBD that they had, and the person at the counter said, oh, you need to talk to Barbara. Barbara's the one who knows everything. Go, let me go grab Barbara. She's walking out the door right now. So I talked to Barbara, I tell her what's going on, and she just looks at me and she goes, I've talked to somebody before about this, and you need this, and pointed me to this vial of CBD oil that I'd never seen, never heard of, never tried. Within weeks, the pain started to subside. These shocks that just felt like these electric shocks that just shot down my face, that just caused me to stop dead where I couldn't even speak anymore, began to slowly change. I had no idea what was happening to me. I didn't know if it was going away. I still had them. I went from having anywhere from 30 shocks, a day to maybe 20. Sometimes there'd be 40, and sometimes there'd be 5. But the thing was, it's like I kind of started seeing glimpses of who I was and where I was going again, because quite honestly, the month before I wrote on Facebook to my friends and I told them the whole story, because there's only so long that you can go by where people start looking at you crazy when you're talking to them and you do this and they're wondering if you're having a seizure. So at some point you've got to tell your friends, you've got to tell your family what's going on. So as time passed, things got better, things improved. And I was asked at work if I wanted to MC an event, because I used to do those kind of things. But they stopped asking me because they knew that I was kind of hesitant to ever think I could do that again. And I MC'd an event, and I pulled through it, and I managed not to have any issues, and I felt pretty confident about it. And time has passed, and I thought, I really love doing StoryOly, and I didn't think I'd ever get to do this again. I didn't think I'd ever get to stand in front of a crowd where I could talk and feel like who I am and who I was meant to be. And I can honestly sit here today and tell you that whatever your first impressions are, maybe they may not be that great. Maybe you might think, yeah, you're right, that person looked horrible and maybe I shouldn't have anything to do with them, or maybe this experience is the worst thing I'm ever gonna face. But the thing is, it's like, sometimes those first impressions can be wrong. Sometimes you're not really thinking clearly to understand what might really be behind that first impression. And I'm here to tell you today that that first impression of losing everything in my life is gone, because I can stand here today and tell you I am my authentic self, here today, pain-free, because of this vial that I got in wonderful Bend, Oregon.
What about your youth that's still true about you today? Recalcitrance. That's what it said. What about you? What trait do you possess that was true about you as youth that is today? An overactive imagination. Regular Walter Mitty, that one. Who gets it? Thank you. What trait do you possess that was true about you as a youth? The forest is still my preferred habitat. Oh, cool. Another story, shall we? This slip says Lori O. Lori O. Lori O, Lori O, Lori O. Oh, she's tall.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. In 1978, I was 14 years old, and I was given an opportunity that changed my life. My grandfather in the 20s, and then my father in the 50s, went to a summer camp in Indiana. And when my grandfather came to my father and said, "I want to send your boys to this camp," my father said, "What you do for the boys, you must do for the girls as well." So yay for my dad. When my dad and my grandfather had gone, it had only been a boys' camp. And now it was co-ed, and so I got the opportunity to go. I was the first girl in the family. I was a little bit hesitant because from what I understood, it was still kind of steeped in sexism. But I got there, my first step on the campus, and I fell in love. My first impression was, oh my God, this is my home. There were over 100 sailboats that were at my whim. I could sail any of them. If I had wanted to, I could have ridden one of the 100+ horses that they had in the stables. I could do any sport under the sun. Over the next 3 summers, I did those things. I learned how to sail, and it became my passion. I learned how to shoot a .22 rifle on a range in the basement of a gymnasium. You see, in the wintertime, that place was a boarding school, which had also recently gone co-ed, but was still kind of steeped in sexism. I didn't like that part of it, but it was feeding me in a way that nothing else that I was doing at that time really did, and so I kept going back summer after summer. When I got into college, I had the opportunity to work there in the summertime, and I took it, because who wouldn't want to go spend their summers on a lake teaching other kids how to sail, being outside, living in a cabin, having fun. So I got there my first summer on staff, and so things were changing now. I wasn't a kid, I was going to be one of the adults there, and I met the camp director at the half of the camp that I was working at. When I went there, I was at something called the upper camp, and it was kids who were in high school, and where I was working, it was a camp for younger children, ages 9 to 14. And I met the camp director, and my first impression was not good. He gave me the creeps. That feeling that you get in your gut, this guy's weird. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with him on a day-to-day basis. I was a lowly cabin counselor, and I had to deal with my kids, and I didn't have to deal with the muckety-mucks, and so I went on my way, and I dealt with my kids, and I had a great time, and I kept going back every summer because it was awesome. Around year 6, because I worked there for 10 summers, around year 6 that I worked there, he disappeared, which was a good thing because by that time I had risen in the ranks and I had to deal with the camp director on a day-to-day basis. I was in charge of a big unit of kids and I had staff members working for me, and I continued to do that for 10 years. Working at that camp led to my professional job where I worked for the American Camping Association. which was awesome. I got to write boating curricula for use in camps all over the United States. I had to quit working at the camp after 10 years because I got my real job. I also fell in love and got married and started having kids. What do you do? In 2007, my children were old enough to go to camp, and I looked at my husband and I said, there's only one place I want to take these kids. There was only one way to afford it, too, and that's for me to have to go back and work. So yay me. I went back in 2007. Everything was great. In 2008, I showed up on campus, and somebody had come back to work. It was that camp director from before. He was not the camp director. Now he was teaching water skiing. And so he said he had gone off to be a professor of military science at a college in the Midwest in those years in between, but now he had retired from that and was back on campus. And I met him again, and my gut reaction was the same. But I didn't have to deal with him on a day-to-day basis until I got the job as camp photographer. And so I was going around taking pictures of the kids to post online for their parents to look at so that they could see their kids. And he saw me take his picture one day, and he said, "You can't take my picture." I said, okay, which of course, me being me, was like a challenge. Of course I'm going to take his picture now, right? So I would go around, and I wouldn't purposely take his picture, but I didn't avoid taking it. And then I got called into the camp director's office, the new camp director, and he said, "Lori, you can't take Tim's picture. Apparently he was in Iraq and Afghanistan and pretty deep, and he can't have his picture posted on the web, so you can't take his picture." And I thought, okay, not only is my gut reaction telling me that this guy is a creep, my gut reaction is also telling me that he's full of shit. Because there's no way. I stopped working at camp in 2009 because my kids had wanted to do things here in Washington. They had finished their program there, and so we came back. And in the summer of 2010, I got a phone call from one of my friends who was still working at camp, and she said, "You're not going to believe what just happened." "What? What just happened?" "Tim just got arrested. He had multiple hard drives in his basement that were filled with child pornography." Gut level was right, wasn't it? The happy ending to this story, besides the fact that he's serving multiple years in jail, is that in 2018, my husband retired, and I looked at him and I said, "Hey, you want to go work at camp?" And he said, "Yeah." So last summer we went back, and we're going again this summer too. Thanks.
What trait do you still possess that was first observed in your childhood? "I still love to approach strangers and somehow make them laugh." I bet your parental units loved that about you as a child. What trait do you still possess? "When I was a child and told to do something, I would really think about it before I did it. So I am still questioning." Yeah. What trait do you possess? "Sidewalk superintendent." What trait do you possess? "My annoying optimism." Why would that need to be annoying? All right. Let's have another story, shall we? Reaching into the magic pocket. This slip says, Tamara Fullweiler. Come on up to the stage. Oh, so many. What trait do you still possess? How cute I am. Well, 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 well. Meow, 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 meow. Welcome, Tamara. How is this? Perfect. Looking good? Yeah. Yes, very good. Good.
Since I was about 5 years old, I imagined running away to live in the forest by myself. So a few years ago, I bought a small cottage on a lake and I moved into it. And the only way to get there was to go 10 miles down a road that dead-ended at 12 miles. On one side, it was the scenic Nisqually River, and on one side, it was the wild Deschutes River, and there was a narrow, windy, hilly, two-lane road that took you out there. And I felt pretty safe. I had great neighbors. It took a little, we had a big sturdy fence all the way around the property, and there were gates going in and out, and so you had a little electronic card to get you in and out of the gates. And I felt like it was bucolic. I really enjoyed living out there. But some of you who live in Thurston County may remember about that time 10 years ago. A woman in Tenino disappeared. And then a woman in Bucota disappeared. And I'm living in the middle of nowhere by myself. I have an hour-long commute every day from my little lake house to where I worked in Tumwater through a narrow corridor in a place I call the Weyerhaeuser National Forest. It's dark, it's tree-lined, there's no cell service, and you can only go as fast as you could go on that road. So while I felt pretty safe in my community with my neighbors, I felt a bit exposed when I was out on that road. So one morning, I'm on my way to work. It's about this time of year, pretty dark in the morning when we're taking off for work. And I get to the security gate, and I go to take my electronic card to swipe it, and I drop the damn thing between my door and the seat. And it fell back towards the back of the car. So I'm at the security gate. I'm blocking the security gate. Nobody else can get out while I'm messing with this. And I get out, and I start unpacking the back of my car. So I take out my work bag, and I take out my umbrella, and I take out my bug-out bag, because when you live that far out, you never know when you're going to have to bug out, so you got to carry one of those and some extra shoes and some other stuff, and I put it all on top of my little Toyota Corolla. And I finally get the card, and then I see car lights coming down the road from the neighborhood, and I'm thinking, I got to unblock this gate. So I load that crap all back up in my car, and I go over the speed bumps that take me to the highway where I can start my commute, and I turn onto the highway. And I'm kind of waking up, I got the car karaoke going, and I'm drinking my coffee. I'm watching for those kamikaze deer, because you know they're out there in the Weyerhaeuser National Forest, right? And so I'm driving along, and I'm pretty happy about it, and whoosh, this giant Chevy truck passes me with such force that it just rattles my car, and it rattles me. I'm like, what the? And I look at it, and I think, you know, this truck was probably marine blue when it was made, but it has been so abused, it is now marine rust, and it just blows on down the road. And I'm like, oh, that was weird. So I'm driving along on this narrow road, and it's kind of hilly, and I go to the bottom of the hill, and that truck is pulled over at the side, and its flashers are on. I'm like, well, that's kind of creepy. And so I just like, I'm gonna just drive past him and kind of ignore him and try not to make eye contact. And I'm driving. And he gets like back on the road right behind me and starts tailgating me, and he's flashing his lights at me. And I'm thinking, okay, it's early in the morning and I don't see any other cars or kamikaze deers or anything out here. It's me and this guy, and I'm not feeling very good about this right now. And so I speed up, and he passes me again. And I'm like, oh my God, I just slow down. I'm thinking, I'm gonna let him get a little time and space on me. I'm not gonna do anything about this. And I go down a hill and around a blind corner, and he is parked in the middle of the road, sideways, stopped. His driver's side door is facing me. And I just stop. I'm thinking, okay, choices here. Call 911, run over him, I don't know, talk to him. So I look at my cell phone. Well, I'm so far out, there's no cell phone service. I'm thinking, vehicular manslaughter, not on my 5-year plan. Okay, I'm gonna have to talk to this guy. So I watch him, like not letting him out of my sight. And my first impression of the thing that emerged from this truck was that Paul Bunyan and a Yeti had a love affair. And this giant Hulk dark, hairy-covered man in the red and black plaid shirt that gets out of this truck was their love child. And he is reaching inside his truck and pulling something across the seat towards him. And my sphincter shrinks. I don't really know what I'm gonna do. So I roll my window down like, 2 inches. I'm thinking, how am I gonna handle this? And he starts walking towards me and he's carrying something like really close, tightly to his leg that I can't really see. And I can hardly breathe. My fight or flight is exploding at that moment. And then he points my umbrella at me and slides it through my window. I said, "Ma'am, you dropped this when you first came out of the security gate." All my fight or flight disappeared. I said, "Well, thank you, sir. Have a nice day." And I rolled up my window, and he got in his truck, and he drove away. And I thought, I think my first impression of my neighborhood is that I have nice neighbors. Still stands. He was a pretty good guy.
Okay, listen to this. Being observant. My dad told me when I was young, I knew the rules, but lived by my own set of rules. Rules are loose recommendations to this day. Yeah. What's true about you now? Facial hair. It's kind of awesome, right? Baby with a beard. What's true? I still say L-O-M-N-O-P like it's one word during the alphabet. L-O-M-N-O-P. What's true now? I really hate being bored. Lively mind likes to know stuff. What's true now? Toe. I'm so glad this is the last one. Toe dexterity. All right, we've had a wonderful evening of stories, have we not? Yes. We humans have experiences, and we are enriched when those amongst us share them. Tonight we heard about the benefits of staying in a youth hostel. And I'm talking benefits. We heard about the magic elixir that is CBD. We learned how you can torment your younger sibling and still they turn out to be great human beings. We learned that the first impression of the ikigai at camp is not to be ignored. We learned that Matthew's Scottish accent sounded pretty good to us. We also learned that it's a good idea to get out of your comfort zone because it might become the thing you love. We learned how art is important in our lives and that it helps us manage our own experiences when we see it reflected in a piece of art. We learned about a person joining a vaudeville troupe and how it sustained her through very difficult times. We learned that Roy, although not a locksmith, is pretty damn handy. But the story that moved us the most, that caught our breath and we wanted to find out what was going to happen next, was the story of the giant truck driver. Yes. The scary, oversized, hairy, umbrella returning neighbor. And that is Tamara's story, and she's tonight's winner. Here's your prize tomorrow. Come and claim it. You qualify to be part of the Grand Slam in September. Well done. Thank you all. It was a rich evening of stories. I hope you will come and join us on the third Tuesday in December for the theme that I've already forgotten. Oh yes, Making Ends Meet. Making Ends Meet in December. Tell your friends we're here at Rhythm Rye. See you then. Oh, I'm Elizabeth Lord. Bye-bye.